Welcome to Rewild by Design, a podcast for women in midlife who are ready to burn the rule book, drop the good girl mask, and come home to who they really are. I'm your host, Marissa, a human design and Gene Keys mentor, and your guide in this wild woman era. Get ready for bold conversations, raw truths, and the kind of insights that'll shake you awake. Because midlife isn't the end of your story. It's the point where you finally get to write it your way. Welcome back to another episode of Rewild by Design. I'm your host, Marissa Gordon, and today I want to talk about something I know if you're anything like me, you've probably felt that deep sense of, is this it? Even after doing everything you were supposed to. So you got the career, you built the family, you bought the house, hopefully before the mortgage interest rates were sky high, and you checked all the boxes. And on paper, everything looks good. But in your body, it's almost indescribable. It's this heaviness and this weight. And this is what I call the midlife awakening. And this process, I guess, for a lack of a better term, is about realizing that the map you were given wasn't built for your soul. And now, this map, let's talk about it. You know, we all probably grew up being fed this script, this generic, standard, work hard, take care of everybody else, be the martyr, earn your promotions, do well in school, keep your house in order. And oh, by the way, make sure you smile when you do it. And that script worked for survival. You know, maybe it worked for a number of years and it got you through. But that script doesn't create fulfillment. I remember looking back in my former career, and I had tried to do all the things to rise in the ranks. And there came a point where I was given a promotion and I thought it looked great, right? I was making more money, I had more responsibility, but I ended up spending less time with my family, more time feeling drained, all while everyone else around me was celebrating, right? Saying how proud they were. But yeah, sure, on the outside, it looked great. You know, the money was nice. But inside, I felt empty. There was no joy in this, there was no expansion. And my body was screaming to me, and I wasn't listening. This isn't it, girl. And my brain just kept trying to convince me that it was enough. And all the while, I was feeling really guilty about these feelings I was having. And I know I'm not alone because I've spoken with so many women like you who, let's say they finally got that corner office, they started the business or moved into that dream house. And within weeks or months or years, they were feeling restless or irritated or just they were numbing out. And that's because success, by someone else's definition, will always leave you hungry for something deeper. It's just how it is. And your body always tells the truth. So when you're living in a way that completely drains you, you feel it. That fatigue that no amount of coffee can touch, right? Because like coffee, unfortunately, has the opposite long-term effect. You've got the irritability at your kids or your partner that doesn't even make sense. Like, why am I snapping over all these little things? I mean, in midlife, it could be the hormones too, but I digress. And even feeling disconnected from intimacy. And these aren't random symptoms, these are signals. Your body is the alarm system. letting you know that you have been pouring your energy into a life that doesn't nourish you. But most of us were taught to override those signals. We were taught to just work harder, push through, slap on that smile, girl, and numb out with another glass of wine or another shopping cart full of Amazon boxes. But like they say, the body keeps the score. Let's talk about how this midlife awakening shows up differently depending on your human design type. So, for generators, you are meant to feel lit up by what you're doing. And when you're stuck in obligations that just drain you, your sign is frustration. It's that tight, irritated energy of knowing you're capable of more, but you're trapped in those shoulds and that people pleasing. And manifesting generators, you crave the freedom to pivot and follow like multiple interests. And the red flag for you is boredom or irritation, this like frustration and anger hybrid, when you feel forced to stay on one path. Midlife often slams Manny Gens with the this is the box you built, now you got to live in it energy. And that feels suffocating. And projectors, you're here to be guides. You're not here to grind it out. But most projectors that I know have spent decades trying to keep up with everybody else. So by midlife, that bitterness is front and center. Like, why do I give so much and get so little back? And that bitterness is your body saying, you cannot keep doing it like this. Now, my manifestors, you need freedom and independence. And midlife can really hit hard when you've lived under other people's rules for far too long. And that result is that anger. And not just surface irritation, this is like burning rage, this deep simmering resentment at being controlled. And let's not talk about that's a story for another day is as women how we are just told not to feel our anger, not to express our anger. Yeah, that'll be a whole other episode. And lastly, reflectors. You are deeply tuned into your environment. And if you have spent years or decades in places that don't nourish you, that's where the disappointment takes over. And you start to feel like life itself has let you down. But it's really just a reflection of the spaces and the people that you've been surrounded by. Now, on top of that, let's layer in the human design profiles. So let's say, for example, a 2-4 like myself might hide in their comfort zone, afraid to disappoint others. Hello, most of my life. And a 5-1 might feel trapped in that fixer role, that savior role, carrying responsibility for everybody else's problems. But they're not yours to solve. Now, these nuances matter because they show you that you're not failing at anything. And it's just a signpost and a guidepost that you've been living in a way that your unique energy in your operating system was never built to sustain long term. So if you ignore this awakening, the symptoms don't just go away, they keep compounding. That resentment gets louder. The body aches a little bit harder. That's not just aging. And the coping mechanisms, whether it's the wine, the food, the scrolling, don't get me started on the doom scrolling, the overscheduling to avoid, or the people pleasing, these all become habits that bury you even deeper. And I've seen women spend entire decades trying to just muscle through a life that was draining them, only to wake up at 60 or beyond wondering where the fuck their vitality went. Numbing out only delays the inevitable, it doesn't erase it. So, what's the antidote? I'm going to tell you it's not another checklist. For God's sakes, like you don't need another plan or another checklist, another productivity hack. It's coming back to what makes you feel alive. And that's pleasure, play, rest, experimentation. And sometimes that means trying something new just because you want to, not because it's productive. And sometimes it means saying no to an obligation that drains you, even if people don't like it. No is a full sentence. And sometimes it means creating space to breathe instead of filling every second. And rewilding is about stripping back the layers of what you've been told life should look like and creating more space for what actually nourishes you. So, as we wrap up here in this episode, I want to leave you with a few questions to reflect on, as I usually do. Number one, what boxes have you checked that no longer feel meaningful? Where is your body giving you signals that you've been ignoring? And three, what small experiment in pleasure or play could you give yourself this week? It doesn't need to be grand, it doesn't need to be this huge thing. It could just be one tiny instance that you go out and do something different for yourself. And midlife and this awakening doesn't ever mean that life is falling apart and you just need to light a match to it and burn it all up. This awakening means you're finally ready to stop living for everybody else and start living for you. So, if you want a place to begin, grab my free energy snapshot audio. In less than 10 minutes, you'll hear how your energy is naturally designed to work so you can start shifting out of those burnout patterns. The link is in the show notes. And until next time, I love you and keep rewilding your life one step at a time. Well, that's it for this episode of Rewild by